Welcome to the Office of Student Services Media Library, brought to you by your host, Mr. Pulliam.
Hey there, and welcome to another lesson by me, Mr. Pulliam, brought to you by the Office of Student Services Media Library. Today we're going to talk about grit and what it means to have grit, because I think it's an important skill and quality to have in your life, especially for students here at Paint Valley. So first off, what is grit? So grit is the perseverance and passion to achieve long-term goals. So sometimes people will talk about grit as being mentally tough or having mental toughness too. So basically grit is when you're strong up here so that you can perform well in whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So before we do anything else, I want you guys to take a moment to complete a little online survey called the Grit Scale Test. When you get done and when you get your score, please give it to your teacher and have them write it down so that I can see how everyone's score lines up and how we're doing on that. You can either take this on your phone or your Chromebook, depending on your teacher's preference. So I'm going to leave that up to them. Go ahead and use this link here at the bottom to access the survey, and then your teacher will pause my video until everyone has completed it, and then we will move on. Ready, set, go. Okay, great. So I hope you guys enjoyed that survey, and I hope you learned a little bit about yourselves along the way. So next up, I want you to watch this video. It's about grit, and it's an animated video, so it should be at least a little bit entertaining for you. Okay, here we go. Ready, set, go.
By Angela Duckworth. Angela's a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, and she's obsessed with finding out the answer to the question, who's successful and why? She's conducted studies involving national spelling bee champions, elite military training graduates, and top corporate salespeople to determine what was the biggest predictor of their success. She wondered, was it talent or was it effort? Now, our society would have us believe that it would be talent. We have the tendency to marvel at natural talent and overlook the importance of effort. Surveys show that we commend people who put in the effort, but we don't actually believe it can compete with natural talent. We often discount our own abilities when going up against people who have a higher IQ or appear more naturally gifted. But Angela has found the following to be true in study after study. Where talent counts once, effort counts twice. Angela explains this using a simple formula. Talent times effort equals skill, and skill times effort equals achievement. When you apply effort to any base level talent, you get skill. When you apply effort to skill, you get achievement. The science shows that grit, the sustained application of effort towards a long-term goal, is the biggest predictor of lifelong achievement. For some, it's an inconvenient truth. Certain people would never achieve what those people can, and don't even bother trying in the first place. But for others, it can be liberating, knowing that they're not doomed to mediocrity due to a lack of talent. If they put in the effort, they can achieve great things. Sure, there are some limitations. All of us can't make the NBA. We're not all 6'9". But you could become one of the best players in your local basketball league. By remembering that talent counts once, effort counts twice, we can be hopeful that we can one day become more than we think we can, that we can achieve great things despite not winning the talent lottery. But being gritty is hard. Resisting endless temptations to quit or experiencing failure is extremely difficult to deal with. But Angela says we all have the ability to grow our grit if we direct our focus in 4 specific ways. First, develop a fascination with what you're trying to do. Second, strive to improve each day. Third, remind yourself of the greater purpose. And fourth, adopt a growth mindset. Charles Darwin admitted to not having great quickness of apprehension without possessing supernatural intelligence. Darwin developed an obsessive fascination and was said to keep questions alive in the back of his mind, questions that related to what he was observing, that drove him to discover the connection between all living things. His deep interest in the natural sciences and constant questioning led him to the breakthrough that we now know as the theory of evolution. So what questions are most intriguing to you? Find the questions that fascinate you, and you'll find the capacity to stay gritty while trying to achieve something great. Next, aim to improve yourself every single day. Compete with who you were yesterday. Olympic gold medal swimmer Rowdy Gaines once said, "At every practice, I would try to beat myself. If my coach gave me 10 100-meter swims one day and asked me to hold it to a minute and 15 seconds, the next day, he would give me 10 100-meter swims, and I would try to hold it to a minute and 14 seconds." Angela says that the refrain of all paragons of grit is that whatever it takes, I want to improve. It doesn't matter how excellent they already are. So how can you carve out time each day to push your abilities and seek constant and never-ending improvement? The third way to grow our grit is to remind ourselves of the greater purpose. Angela conducted a survey of 16,000 adult Americans to determine what was a bigger contributor of grit, obtaining a feeling of pleasure or feeling a greater sense of purpose. She found that people on the upper half of her grit scale experienced a similar level of pleasure in what they were doing. But she found that higher levels of purpose directly correlated to higher levels of grit. Angela says, the most gritty people see their ultimate aims as deeply connected to the world beyond themselves. You could be a bricklayer simply laying the bricks for a cathedral, or you could be a bricklayer building the house of God. It's largely up to you to determine what purpose or greater meaning your work has. Whatever you come up with has the capacity to raise your level of grit. The last way to grow your grit is to develop a growth mindset. Bill McNabb, the past CEO of Vanguard, the world's largest provider of mutual funds, interviewed leaders within the organization to see who were successful and who weren't. He found that long-term success was dependent on a core belief. Those who believe that, I can't learn anymore, I am what I am, this is how I do things, routinely failed to move up to a senior level. To be gritty, you need to scrap the theory that your abilities are fixed, because it's simply not true. Neuroscience has shown that we have an enormous capacity to change our brains and learn new skills as we get older. The brain is plastic, and you can mold it through sustained effort and experience. Reflect on a time when you started something new, that you were scared you couldn't learn, but you actually did. Use the memory of that experience to disrupt any beliefs that your abilities are fixed. In the end, Angela says that learning to stick to something is a life skill that we can all develop. By remembering that the science shows that grit matters more than talent, and that we all have the capacity to grow our grit, we can develop the confidence to start taking action despite how untalented we think we are. That was the core message that I gathered from Angela's book. She has much more material to help you understand the science of achievement. I highly recommend it.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Next, I want you guys to discuss what you thought about the video you just watched. Whether you liked it, what you learned, whether you think you have grit, and then we'll go into some other couple more slides. Okay, ready, set, discuss. Okay, great. So I hope you guys had a great discussion. Before we go on, I want you guys to learn a little bit about what are the 5 characteristics of grit. So these are what make someone have grit. So you have high grit if you have courage. It takes a lot of courage to go through what a lot of you go through on a daily basis, and we want to encourage you in that. I don't know what you're going through. Your teachers don't know what you're going through, but we know that it takes a lot of courage to get through that. And if you ever want to talk to anyone about that, I know that my office is always open, and I'm sure a lot of your teachers' doors are also always open. In addition to courage, it takes conscientiousness, which is you're achievement-oriented versus dependable. So that basically means you're conscious of who you are. So you know that there are areas you struggle, but you're still focused on achieving your goals, and you're dependable. So even if you struggle in an area, you're still dependable in that you're going to try your best, and you can be depended on to try your best at all times. So another characteristic are having long-term goals and having endurance or follow-through. So yes, you're going to come along struggles and challenges when you're trying to achieve long-term goals, but through grit, you have endurance and you can continue to follow through with those goals even when things get hard. So when things get tough and challenging, someone with grit doesn't give up. They keep fighting and fighting. They show that they have endurance and are willing to fight for what they believe and are passionate about. And that is also where resilience comes in. Resilience is optimism, confidence, and creativity. So when the road gets tough, the tough get going, right? So grit is a way to show that you have resilience. You are optimistic that you will be able to achieve your long-term goals and be successful in those. You're confident that you are capable of being successful and achieving the goal that you have set forth. And then you're also creative. When a challenge comes along, you are creative in figuring out how to navigate that challenge versus just giving up. So you show resilience by creatively navigating through a challenge that you might not have expected in order to achieve the long-term goal that you set. And then finally, a characteristic is understanding the difference between excellence and perfection. So I think this is really important because in our society today, especially on social media and through our lives, we think that people are perfect. We think that we should be striving for perfection, which I'm going to be really honest with you guys is not possible. You will never be perfect because you're a human being, okay? And that's just the reality of life, is that things happen, people change, people get hurt, people grow, people fall, people get back up. It is impossible to be perfect. And so I think it's a great goal that you should strive for perfection, but you're not going to be able to achieve perfection. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can achieve excellence. And by achieving excellence in all you do, that's awesome. So I want you guys to focus and strive for excellence versus striving for perfection, because A, is a more realistic goal, and B, excellence is just as good as perfection. So finally, I want you guys to talk a little bit about some of the things we learned today. So some sample questions are, what are some decisions you make in your daily life that impact your grit? How much grit do you have? And how could you improve your grit? So at this time, I'm going to sign off. Your teacher can go ahead and pause the video when I'm done talking here, just so you guys can still have these discussion questions up. But thank you for listening, and I hope you guys learned a lot about grit. And if you have any other questions, make sure you come talk to me, because I love to talk about this stuff. So as always, it's a great day to be a Paint Valley Bearcat.
Thank you for watching another digital lesson from the Office of Student Services Media Library. And don't forget, it's a great day to be a Paint Valley Bearcat.